makes you wish for bat feeding duty. So you may notice that the picture quality on my laptop camera is a bit ass. So for most of the video, you're going to be seeing B-roll from a game called Iron Harvest, which it actually fits in pretty well with the book we're talking about today. Leviathan by Scott Westerfeld, illustrated by Keith Thompson. It was published in 2009. Scott Westerfeld was born in Dallas, Texas. He went to Vassar College, won a couple awards, also wrote the Ugly series, yada yada yada. Enough about him. Book jacket summary of the book. And here's the book jacket it has on Audible. And yes, I listened to the book instead of reading it. Deal with it. I have to do at least 2 things at a time to convince my brain I'm being productive enough. If you want to listen to it, it's a great listen. It's read by Alan Cummings, who does a great job with the accents of the different characters. Anyway, audiobook jacket. It is the cusp of World War I, and all the European powers are arming up. The Austro-Hungarians and Germans have their clankers, steam-driven iron machines loaded with guns and ammunition. The British Darwinists employ fabricated animals as their weaponry. Ugh, why do I want to pet it? The Leviathan is a living airship, the most formidable air beast in the skies of Europe. Alexander Ferdinand, Prince of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, is on the run. His own people have turned on him. His title is worthless. All he has is a battle-torn stormwalker and a loyal crew of men. Darren Sharp is a commoner, a girl disguised as a boy in the British Air Service. She's a brilliant airman, but her secret is in constant danger of being discovered. God, yeah, have you been in the men's locker room? They'd out her in a second if the story didn't... Oh yeah, that's funny. The book actually builds in an organic reason why the whole locker room situation doesn't happen. I'll let you read that, though. With the Great War brewing, Alec and Darren's paths cross in the most unexpected way, taking them both aboard the Leviathan on a fantastical around-the-world adventure, one that will change both their lives forever. Main characters with brief descriptions. We'll go with the clankers first, because I like the big machines. Alexander Ferdinand of Hohenberg is the fictional teenage son of the real-life Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand. He really likes his machines. I can relate. He knows a lot about those machines and is studying to pilot them one day. I can no longer relate. When his parents are assassinated, he finds himself thrown into a world of confusion and has to take on too much responsibility too quickly. I can once again relate, as can a lot of young adult readers, so he's a good protagonist that way. And then we have Klopp, the master of mechanics. He's the jolly German guy who teaches Alec how to pilot the Stormwalker. Except he's not German, he's Austrian, but whatever. Oh, and then there's Count Volga, who is another advisor to Alec. He's sleazy and conniving, but not evil or even antagonistic. He uses his sleazy and conniving tendencies to help his people. And then on the Darwinists' side, as they're called, we have our other main character, Darren Sharp. Now, Darren is a teenage Scottish girl who disguises herself as a boy to join the air service. She's very knowledgeable about aeronautics from being around her hot air ballooning father until he bites it, and of course from her own studies. She studied a lot. While on the Leviathan, she goes by the name Dylan. She is the best midshipman on the Leviathan after only like a month or 2 of working there. And not because of the child prodigy protagonist syndrome. Throughout the book, you can tell that she actually puts in the work to get good. Oh man, then we got Dr. Nora Barlow, absolute girl boss. She is a geneticist on a secret mission to the Ottoman Empire. She actually helped build the Leviathan, so she's very, very smart. And because she's so smart, I suspect that she totally knows that this androgynous-looking Dylan kid is actually a girl. Honorable mention, the captain of the Leviathan is named Captain Hobbs. This is actually a reference to Thomas Hobbes, who wrote another book called Leviathan, for an essay or something. It's about human nature or whatever. The Hobbes Leviathan doesn't have mechs in it, so I'm not interested. What makes this book YA? Is it in a series? I mean, it's in the YA section of the library. It is part of a series, too. A series that I intend to read now. What age/grade level would you recommend for this book? I don't know. I first read this book back in freshman year of high school, back in my younger school-going days. I probably read as much as I breathed. So I was reading pretty much everything at a pretty young age. So my perception of what age groups should be reading which books is very skewed. So I really don't know where to place this one. My best estimation is I'm just gonna eyeball it at the later half of young adulthood, like 14 to 18. Which is also, now that I think about it, prime fandom age. And from my research into this book, there's a bit of a fan community around this book. What sensitive subjects, if any, are covered in the book? Death, I guess. Not just the war kind, we see plenty of that. There's also the fact that Alec and Darren's parents are dead. This isn't a spoiler, by the way. Alec's parents were real historical figures who were assassinated in real life, so that's just history. And Darren's orphanhood is revealed the first time we meet her, so the topic of death is discussed and explored a little bit. You're not gonna find sex, drugs, and rock and roll in this book about abominations and mech robots. Is there anything unusual about the book? The format, writing style, organization? There's nothing especially unusual about the way Leviathan is written. Hold for lightning. There it is. It's written from the perspectives of two different main characters, which is a little less than normal, but it's hardly unusual. Why did you choose this book? Was it a reread from younger days? Was it recommended, etc., etc.? Listen, I have only a handful of loves in this world. Garlic bread, weird world building, and mechs. And Leviathan delivers on the latter two. More specifically, Leviathan is the perfect scratcher for a particular itch I have. As you might be able to tell from the B-roll I have playing, I absolutely adore the diesel punk aesthetic. And Leviathan is exactly that. It has walking mechs. It has a World War I/World War II vibe. It's literally set during World War I, the Great War. Really, the one thing it's missing for me is an eccentric tinkerer woman who's probably on the spectrum. Then, I don't think I'd ever be able to shut up about it. I would only ever read this book. Leviathan is actually a book I've had my eye on for a while now. I saw it in my local library, I picked it up, read the first couple chapters, loved it, and then forgot to read the rest of it because of the crushing weight of my other responsibilities. Here ends what is mandated for the assignment. From this point forward, I will be talking about the things that I like about this book, which will likely send me over the 6 to 8 minute limit. So for legal reasons, this is a good place to end the video. Except it's not, but for legal reasons I'm gonna say that. I love the way that the Leviathan is described and detailed throughout the entire book. It's just described as this absolute jungle, this absolute ecosystem. And there's a part that I'm gonna read for y'all right now. If this video goes up uncompleted, you'll know that somebody found it after I died by lightning strike and published it in my honor. But anyway, the part that I was gonna read. A huge air beast was emerging from the grey clouds behind her, its reflective silver topside glistening in the sunlight. The thing was gigantic, larger than St. Paul's Cathedral, longer than the ocean-going dreadnought Orion that she'd seen in the Thames the week before. The shining cylinder was shaped like a zeppelin, but the flanks pulsed with the motion of its cilia, and the air around it swarmed with symbiotic bats and birds. The airship drew closer until Darren could make out the gondola suspended from the beastie's belly. The foot-tall letters under the bridge windows came slowly into focus. Leviathan. All throughout the book, it's just that. There's a whole bunch of different creatures. It's not just the Leviathan itself that makes up the ship. It is the body of the ship, but there are also these hydrogen-producing bacteria in its gut that make hydrogen so that it can float. And there are these bees, just straight up unmodified bees that go out, get the pollen and such, and then come back, and then that provides the ship with nutrients to make more hydrogen. And there are these flechette bats, the one that I said that I wanted to pet, that poop out flechettes on the enemies. It's just fascinating. And also, I love the way that the combat scenes are written. I'm not even sure how to describe it. They're different between the two POV characters. The mech fight scenes are almost Star Trek-y, with the way that the crew of the Stormwalker talks out their plans with each other and pilot the ship and like discuss things in the heat of battle. It's almost naval in a sense. The fight scenes on the Leviathan are almost weirdly like the Battlefield game series, not even a book that it brings to mind first. Everything is so incredibly chaotic. The world around you is mad and evil and wants you to die no matter what side you're on, but all that fire and brimstone and absolute insanity is just a backdrop. And what we care about is what our girl Darren is doing at that very moment. Here it is. It's that feeling of a small soldier in an unimaginably large-scale battle, which fits well considering that Darren's a small soldier on an incredibly large animal. Leviathan is very creative with its setting, and it uses the rules that it establishes and then iterates on them. This is with the fight scenes as well, going back to the fight scenes. They are very creative. At first, it's describing how the air service, His Majesty's Air Service, uses compressed air in their guns, in their cannons, and their small arms, so that they don't ignite the hydrogen inside the Leviathan. Then we have the Germans firing phosphorus flares at the Stormwalker to mark them so that some artillery cannon can properly pin them down and fire them at them. And Westerfeld specifically describes how the phosphorus burns Alec, just so we're completely clear, in case you weren't before, that phosphorus is hot and fiery when it burns. Then we see the Germans launch those same phosphorus flares at the Leviathan, and we understand exactly how bad that is for our main characters. I love that this world is internally consistent. As far as I'm aware, there are no holes in the made-up logic of the world. If you're told that something is true, it will remain true. There won't be any Super Saiyan 2 God Super Saiyan moments, at least not in the first book. I haven't read the sequels yet. Maybe there are helium breathers in there that are better than hydrogen breathers in every way. Oh God, whatever shall we do? Now there was one moment when I was driving my car and I almost swerved off the road hearing this, and it's not even like a particularly exciting part. It was just some part in context. Floating hangars on Lake Constance. What the hell does that mean, Scott Westerfeld? I want to know, Scott Westerfeld. I want to see the floating hangars on Lake Constance, Scott Westerfeld. Please! The ending left me wanting more. The book just sort of ends. Like, the end of the book feels like the end of a chapter. You don't get the complete story by just reading the first book. So it's a good thing there are sequels. 2 of them. So, final thoughts on Leviathan. It's pretty much exactly what I wanted. Everything I read on the book jacket, it delivers on it. It delivers on all of that. It somehow manages to combine a fascinating setting with internal consistency and good world building, has interesting effects on the plot and all that, with compelling characters that you actually enjoy reading. I absolutely loved it. Would recommend. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to patrolling the gastric chambers. Well, as they say in the air service, once more, unto the breach.